The time is at hand for me to give you my Week 2 picks for this 2015 NFL season. Now, before I do that, I'll give you a quick recap of my performance in Week number 1. Ended up going 10-6, which I believe is a better start than I had last year in Week number 1. Like I referenced in the Week 1 picks video, there's usually a couple of really crazy games that are kind of hard to envision how they play out. In terms of my best picks of the week, I would probably have to go with... I'd probably go with Buffalo over Indianapolis. That was one I felt pretty confident about heading in. And I think a lot of people probably actually had that pick as well. In terms of the picks that I maybe regret the most, maybe I should have paid more attention to St. Louis and Seattle, seeing as how the Rams did beat Seattle last year in St. Louis. And with the Seahawks lacking Cam Chancellor, maybe I should have paid a little more attention to that game. Looking back, I don't know why the fuck I bought into anything pertaining to the Oakland Raiders. I just have absolutely no idea whatsoever. But 10-6, so let's see if I can do even better in week number 2. Let's go ahead and get started with the Thursday night matchup. We've got a tale of 1-0 teams that both won their week 1 games in a similar fashion. Yet you look at it, and it seems to me that there's a clear-cut favorite. You've got the Broncos traveling to Arrowhead and taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. In Week 1, the Broncos' offense was very slow, kind of stagnant. They weren't able to really run the ball all that effectively with C.J. Anderson against the Ravens' defense. And what was even more concerning, I think, is that you see Peyton Manning trying to fit into a different offensive system. It looked like a bad fit, but worse than that, Peyton Manning looks like his arm is done. Like, even Chad Pennington says that he has a limp noodle for an arm. I mean, that's bad. Really bad. And if it gets to the point where Peyton Manning's arm strength continues to be that questionable, teams are going to be able to sag in on that Broncos passing game and really restrict things on what they can do. They won primarily, honestly, based off of the strength of their defense in week number 1. And you can make a similar argument to the Kansas City Chiefs and the fact that their defense dominated to the point early on in that game against the Houston Texans that the Brian Hoyer experiment in Houston seems to have lasted all of one half of football in week number 1, and now they're turning to Ryan Mallett. That defense was really good. It was a little bit more than that. While Jamal Charles didn't have a huge game, he was at least solid against a very good Houston Texans defense. What was even more impressive was the fact that there was a little more element of explosiveness to that passing game with Alex Smith. Yeah, of all things, with Alex Smith, with Travis Kelce at tight end and then new free agent acquisition Jeremy Maclin at wide receiver. Even though Maclin didn't score a touchdown, you could see some big play elements in that Chiefs offense that haven't been there in previous seasons with Alex Smith at the helm. So I head into this game, and I can't believe I'm talking about the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs offense is more explosive than the Denver Broncos, but based off of what I saw in week number 1, it most certainly appears to be that way. I look at this matchup, though, and you can't just dismiss the Denver Broncos because Peyton Manning has a history of performing well in the regular season. The Denver Broncos defense definitely looks legit, and they are legit indeed. And there's also that mental block there of the past 2 years with Andy Reid and Alex Smith. The Chiefs just haven't been able to do enough to beat the Denver Broncos. They just can't find a way to beat this team. This is a must-win for the Kansas City Chiefs, even more so than it is for the Denver Broncos. Sure, the Denver Broncos would love to be 2-0, have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs, and be sitting in first place in the division, but with 14 more games still to go, I think it's less critical for the Broncos to have to win this game. I think for the Kansas City Chiefs, though, they must. Because they have to understand that the only guarantee they have of making the playoffs this year, perhaps, is going to be having to win the division. Because you might have 3 teams out of the AFC East make the playoffs. Very well possibly could be a chance, along with maybe 2 or 3 teams in the AFC North in a playoff contending position. So as a result, what does that mean? It means the Chiefs' only guaranteed path is to win the division. And the best way to win your division is win your divisional games. And in particular, get over that obstacle that is the Denver Broncos. This is a have-to win even in week number 2 for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a must-win. And I believe they will find a way to get the job done ultimately. So I will take the Chiefs over the Broncos on Thursday night. Now we head to the Sunday games. We look at the New England Patriots traveling to Buffalo to take on Rex Ryan and the Buffalo Bills, who were even more impressive than the Patriots in week number 1, where the Patriots handled the Steelers somewhat comfortably. The Buffalo Bills, frankly, dominated the Indianapolis Colts in a fashion you would expect the New England Patriots to handle the Indianapolis Colts in. I look at this matchup, and Rex Ryan's teams always seem to match up well against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. The Buffalo Bills has a lot of momentum coming off of that Week 1 victory over the Colts. Now you're sitting there, you're hosting the New England Patriots. This is a real statement game for this Rex Ryan Buffalo Bills team. A chance to go 2-0, win a game in the division, put the Patriots a game back, hold an early season tiebreaker on them. A lot on the line for the Bills. And while the Patriots have a better quarterback in Tom Brady, and that always helps and makes a big difference, I think Taylor may be able to do just enough. Maybe they'll get a little more out of the Bills' running game here in week number 2. I expect the Bills to actually start off the season 2-0. It's what I thought they were going to do for months heading into this season. I expect them to beat the New England Patriots on Sunday. I'll take the Cardinals to beat the Bears. I'll take the Bengals to beat the Chargers. I'll take the Tennessee Titans and the Mariota Express to beat potentially Johnny Football and the Cleveland Browns. Like it matters who plays quarterback for the Browns at this point in time. I'll take the Vikings to rebound in week 2 against the Detroit Lions, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions beat them because the Vikings' run defense was bad and Bridgewater, frankly, looked terrible in week number 1 against the San Francisco 49ers. I'll take the Saints to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll take the Giants to beat the Falcons. I'll take the Steelers to beat the 49ers. I'll take the Rams to beat the Redskins. I'll take the Panthers to beat the Texans. I'll take the Ravens to beat the Raiders. I'll take the Dolphins to beat the Jaguars. And then we get to the late Sunday afternoon matchup that everybody will be focused on, a revenge game for DeMarco Murray, his first crack at the Cowboys and their defense. You've got Dallas traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And you look at this, these are two teams that play close week 1 matchups where neither team really played anywhere near their best or what we feel is up to their potential or capabilities. And the Cowboys, sense in a lot of ways, you can make the argument that the Giants kind of gave that game to them. But hey, they gave it, the Cowboys took it, and that's what matters at the end of the day. The Cowboys didn't seem to miss DeMarco Murray all that much in the running game in week number 1, but it's not exactly like the Giants' defense is all that great, so it's kind of hard to measure. The Cowboys, however, though, will be without Dez Bryant for at least the next several weeks, which is a crushing blow in a way to that Cowboys passing game. Witten will have to step up. Guys like Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley and even Devin Street perhaps will have to step up in the passing game as well. Lance Dunbar out of the backfield. But losing a Dez Bryant, who, if you remember, had that one monster game against the Eagles last year where he went off for 3 touchdowns, that's definitely a blow for Romo. It's a time they could ill afford to lose Dez Bryant, but I suppose it's better to do it earlier in the year as opposed to later in the year if it had to be done at all. From the Eagles' standpoint, they need to find a way to get DeMarco Murray going. It seemed like it was kind of a square peg in a round hole in the way he was utilized in that offense in week number 1. Bradford seemed to get better as the game went along, but the Eagles can't sit there and get off to the sluggish, slow start again in the first half, which seems to be a trend under Chip Kelly and his teams. Sometimes they'll come back like gangbusters in the second half when they find their rhythm and they get their momentum, and that's true. But you can't start off that way against a good team like the Dallas Cowboys and expect to be able to win. You know, the fact is they were playing the Falcons, who were an average team at best. That's why they had a chance to win week 1, even though they didn't play very, very well. Ultimately, I look at this game. I do think it's a must-win for Philadelphia more than it is Dallas. I think that with it being a revenge game for DeMarco Murray, I'll tend to trend that way. Maybe Murray will have a big game. I'll take the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Then we got the Sunday night matchup, the Seahawks traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Another rematch between these two teams, the two teams that faced off in last season's NFC Championship game. I look at this game, you've got the Packers coming off of a solid but not impressive victory over the Chicago Bears in week number 1. The Seahawks coming off of their loss to the Rams. I look at this, and to me, there's a little bit of ownership here. And what I mean is that the Seahawks kind of have the Packers' number at this point until proven otherwise. I think the Seahawks are smarting a little bit. They lack explosive weapons on the outside on offense, and they most certainly are missing something in their secondary, in particular with Cam Chancellor being out of the fold. But I think this is a game the Seahawks have to win. They must win. They need to win. And I think they will be able to find a way come Sunday night to get the job done. Maybe Marshawn Lynch and Jimmy Graham will play like stars in primetime and have huge games, and they'll beat the Green Bay Packers. And then we look at the Monday night matchup this week. You've got the Jets traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. One of these teams is 1-0, and it's not the Indianapolis Colts. I find it very hard to believe that the Colts would start off this particular season like they did, I believe, last year, 0-2. I look at the Jets, and yeah, they won last week, but to be fair to all parties involved, that was against the Cleveland Browns team that started, that had Johnny Football in the lineup for over a half. I think the Colts will play better in week number 2. Their offense will come alive a little bit, and they'll find a way to beat the Jets on Monday night. Again, you're welcome to go against me with your picks in the comment section below. Let me know as well how you did in week number 1. I guess we'll find out in a few days how I did with these week 2 picks.